my longtime colleagues and friends, Phil Smith and John Daniels, for their partnership, which started many years ago when Kim Hunter Reid, whom you all know, and I first visited with Opportunity Youth here in the parish, and where we held a community leadership meeting with local leaders, including many of you, when I was the Assistant Secretary for Education under the Obama administration. Now, these are very uncertain times globally, domestically, and locally. And what started out as a single instance of the coronavirus in one region in China has now evolved into a global pandemic and crisis affecting everyone. The COVID-19 pandemic is a global issue that we did not expect or anticipate. The virus can affect anyone and can make everyone who has been exposed potentially very ill. We were not fully prepared for this outbreak and had no real plan in place as a country, nor did we have excess supplies and adequate hospital capacity we could engage. While we work hard now, every day, around the clock on finding a therapeutic to treat those affected and inoculations or vaccines to prevent it, we are learning many lessons in the meantime. But as we are learning, COVID-19 has become disruptive to many of our systems, including education, in so many ways. And sadly, it is affecting our most vulnerable populations and communities disproportionately. More low-income individuals and persons of color are affected. Fewer are tested. Too many lack access to intensive care. Many have lost their jobs. And others, as you well know, take huge risks by going to work and working because they do not have the resources to self-quarantine or stay home. They have to work and provide for themselves and their families. They need to use public transportation and interact with others at work, sometimes amplifying their exposure risk. As Jumaine Williams, examining the conditions in the U.S.'s first epicenter, New York City, put it, not only are our frontline workers, the majority of whom are people of more color, at higher risk of being exposed to COVID-19, but the virus itself is exposing many deep and long-standing inequities in our system that marginalize and therefore jeopardize Black and Brown communities. As the mayor mentioned, I lead the Institute for Educational Leadership in Washington, D.C., and we are a national intermediate organization that works with local leaders in education and workforce development to create more favorable conditions for children, youth, adults, and working families to succeed. We have active working relationships in 435 communities across the United States, and we focus in on the 100 communities where opportunities and resources are structurally absent or constrained. And what we try to do in that work is work with local leaders to deepen our collective impact. These communities, as you well know, face significant inequities, all of which have been exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic and have had a disproportionate negative impact on low-income families, communities of color, and individuals with disabilities. So there is a great need to address these issues now. And over the last 6 weeks, my team members and we have held numerous town halls and conversations within our networks involving about 7,000 leaders from across the country in education and workforce development who have actively participated in these action-oriented dialogues. And these are the issues that we've heard about, many of which will resonate with you in the Baton Rouge context and that I'd like to share with you. As you well know, across the board, there are individual and community concerns about in-person participation and work travel, conferences, professional development for teachers. Everything that is in person now is seen as a luxury and sometimes representing a risk. But perhaps more fundamentally, what we see across the country is significant food shortages and insecurities. People are hungry and they lack access to food. In some communities, based on our dialogues, this issue affects more than 1/3 of a community's population. And there is a continued need to triage basic needs and worry about some are basic food service distribution. Other basic needs, I'm sure you're aware, deal with issues of access to hygiene and toiletry. But when we asked the many leaders across the country how they were doing with this, they actually had partnerships in place that allowed them to address these issues of food shortage and food security with the assets that they had in their community. What they were struggling more with, however, relates to technology, particularly high-speed internet access and equipment. And what we are now seeing across the country is an exacerbation of the digital divide that already existed, because there is lack of adequate infrastructure in many communities. There is no high-speed Wi-Fi available in each and every neighborhood. And we've also seen, as our school systems and education institutions transition to online delivery and virtual learning, that there is a new emergence of privacy and security issues. There's trolling, Zoom bombing, security breaches, and many institutions are trying to figure it out, how to best facilitate that transition from in-person to remote learning. Another thing we're hearing, and this is all over the news, of course, is unemployment. Record numbers of people are being laid off or furloughed, and it's not clear when or if those individuals will be able to return back to work. Many of these individuals are the parents of our children in our public schools or the adult learners at our community colleges across the United States. Access to healthcare and mental health services is another theme that we've heard about. For instance, because many of our schools, for very good reasons, decided to close down or partially close down, what has happened is that many of the school-based health centers, for example, in communities where there are community schools, are closed, and they are so for the foreseeable future, meaning that children and youth and working families who depended on that access in the school context do no longer have that. Housing, and I know this is an issue that is very relevant in Baton Rouge as well, based on my conversation with Phil, that there is a rise in transitions, meaning particularly after unemployment, people can no longer afford the housing that they have, and they are trying to find temporary solutions. And a lot of this ties into the unexpected high levels of unemployment, and in many communities, a shortage of readily available, affordable housing. On a positive note, we hear that family engagement and community engagement across our communities in the United States is very high. People are really coming together in a way that that creates hope. But a number of specific populations are being left out, particularly the disabled population is not at this point in time, it appears, receiving access to the services that they are entitled to and deserve. A few more points and then I'll wrap up. And the next point is about civil rights. And I'm very concerned about the fact that civil rights protections during COVID-19 seem to have evolved to a deprioritizing of civil rights enforcements that are necessary. And in many communities, and this is very, very sad, we've seen a rise in pandemic-triggered violence and even hate crimes targeted towards Chinese Americans. From an education perspective, since we're talking about the state of education, I worry a lot about the learning loss, not just the learning loss that has taken place over the spring, but also the learning loss that we know comes around every summer. And people are beginning to talk about the fear of summer learning loss, and now saying we might be facing losing an entire year of learning if we cannot find different ways to sustain the learning. And then there's a lot of concerns, as you know, about anticipated budget cuts and how that may affect critical support services such as availability of school nurses, childcare, and some communities are beginning to struggle with teacher shortages. So there are many, many things that the communities across the United States are struggling with, but one area that they seem to tackle quite well is around the most basic needs, but the greatest inequities seem to be focused on technology solutions, or the lack thereof, in many communities as it pertains to equipment and internet, not to mention, of course, the severe impact of unemployment and associated housing challenges. So at IEL, we will continue this sort of rapid cycle research into these exacerbated inequities and the populations affected, and we are ready, our team is ready to assist any and all communities that we work with to provide community level microdata to assist in sort of targeting resources where they are most needed. We are also canvassing all the field generated solutions and are making them available to our large networks that we operate. And increasingly, we have been asked over the last couple of weeks to directly support district staff, government departments, workforce development and community organizations, and even community foundations, to help them think through how they can accelerate relief, recovery, and reopening and reviving through planning and system development. And then in closing, I'd like to say, when we look at all of our communities around the US, it appears that most energy has been in the early stages of rapid response, but we see more and more communities, as is Baton Rouge, beginning to address mid to long-term consequences and planning for recovery today. So irrespective of where communities are in their response cycles, strong leadership across sectors and deep grassroots community engagement seem to be the two critical success factors. And based on my experience working with you all in Baton Rouge, I know Baton Rouge has both these strengths and assets, from the Capital Region Promise team to many other cross-system partnerships. Baton Rouge, from our perspective, is very well positioned to weather this crisis and come out on top. So with that, I would like to turn it back over to the Mayor. Madam Mayor.
Thank you so much, Dr. Unit. I could not agree with you more that I think we are positioned to weather this pandemic and to come out on top. I wholeheartedly agree with you. And thank you for your invaluable information to our community, to those who are participating today and watching and listening to this webinar. We greatly appreciate your contribution. Now I would like to welcome our panel. First is the President Chancellor of Southern University, Dr. Ray Belton. Dr. Belton has been at the helm of Southern University since 2015. Before that, he was Chancellor of Southern Shreveport campus for 16 years, during which time the campus saw significant investment and increased enrollment. Throughout his 28-year career in higher education, Dr. Belton has held leadership roles on the state and national level with several esteemed organizations, including the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools, the American Association of Community Colleges, and the Louisiana Campus Compact, just to name a few. Also joining us is the interim president of Louisiana State University, Mr. Tom Galligan. He was appointed to this position in December 2019. Prior to taking this role, he previously served as dean since 2016 of the LSU Paul Hebert Law Center. Before that, he was president of the Colby Sawyer College in New Hampshire, and before that, he was dean of the University of Tennessee's College of Law. Mr. Galligan started his academic career at the LSU Law Center in 1986, during which time students named him the outstanding LSU professor 6 times. Next, we welcome the interim chancellor of Baton Rouge Community College, Dr. Willie Smith. Dr. Smith serves in this position and that he has held since June of 2019. Dr. Smith has been working in the Louisiana Community and Technical College system for over 18 years. Most recently, Dr. Smith served as the Vice President for Training and Business Partnerships with LCTCS. Prior to that, he was the Chief Executive Officer for South Central Louisiana Technical College from June 2017 to June 2018. He also served as Vice President of Academics and Workforce Solutions at South Louisiana Community College from 2011 to 2017. Our final panelist is the Superintendent of the East Baton Rouge Parish School System, Mr. Warren Drake. He has been the leader of the state's second largest school system since 2015. Superintendent Drake actively works to improve Baton Rouge's schools through streamlined efficiency, improving academic achievement, and focusing on student and employee success. Prior to a 3-year stint at the Louisiana Department of Education, he led the Zachary Community School District after being hired in 2002 to oversee the startup of one of the first independent school districts in the state of Louisiana in over 80 years. Welcome to everyone, all of our panelists. I'm going to ask you to unmute your devices only as you are answering questions. And so I have some questions for you all. And I'm so glad to have all of you all on the panel today. So let's talk a little bit about curriculum and instruction. What modifications has your institution made to continue educating students amid the coronavirus pandemic? And I am going to ask Dr. Belton to start because you're the first one I think I introduced. Make sure your mic is off mute.
Do you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, well, let me preference my comments by first commending you, Madam Mayor, for facilitating this town hall meeting. Your commitment to education has been consistent, whether it be advancing the goals of the capital area promise and or facilitating this meeting today. Your leadership is telling, and I really appreciate the opportunity to join with my colleagues this afternoon to speak to our response to COVID-19. Suffice it to say, the arrival and spread of COVID-19 has impacted significantly the lives of Louisianians and certainly has been impactful for Southern University and A&M College. And over the last 45 days, we have been guided by two primary goals: to ensure the safety of students, faculty, and staff, and secondly, to advance some continuity that would enable us to continue to provide a quality educational experience for our students and indeed efficient administrative services. What we perceive to be a challenge ended up being something that we can really launch as an achievement today. But our direct response was to shift all our instructional delivery models to remote and online. And of course, we have always facilitated a number of programs online, but to really turn the ship in the middle of a semester was a great challenge. One of the things, though, that I was really pleased about was the degree to which our faculty across the university really embraced it. And for those who was not familiar with facilitating courses online, we had faculty members and staff working with them to help them introduce themselves to the different models that we've used over time. So that has been a great success and something that we will continue to do in terms of preparing faculty for this new modality of instruction. But one of the more telling things that came out of this strategy was the recognition that many of our students did not have access to technology. And as a result, while we were encouraging students to go back to their home of record, many of them were hesitant in doing so because they felt like they would not have access to the technology that would enable them to be successful in their program of study. And so subsequently, probably to a larger extent, we've had to retain students on the campus, make sure that our library was accessible to them, that computer labs were available for their engagement. And of course, where our health systems, where we're doing telemedicine and counseling, both online. And so it has been an interesting time, to say the least. But recognizing that many of our students are in need of laptops that we understand that everything now has to be digitized such that students can process and engage more fully with the university. I think those are the things that we've learned to date in keeping with our response.
Thank you so much, Dr. Belton. I'm going to ask the same question. Since we heard from our institution of higher education, I'm going to ask our superintendent, because people certainly have asked these questions and you all have certainly stepped up to the plate. But our student population of K through or pre-K through high school, what modifications, superintendent, has the school system had to make during this time to educate our students amid the coronavirus pandemic?
Well, Mayor, first let me thank you for hosting this event, and it's great to be with all my colleagues on this event today, so I appreciate that. This has truly been a crisis that, like, we've never seen before. So when this happened and the governor announced that we were going to be out of school on March 13th, we had about 2 hours before school ended that day. Not enough time to hand out devices. I think one of the things that our school very visionary on this. Our staff, a lot of people think when you're working from home, you're not working as hard, but I can tell you, and you can probably say the same thing, and probably everyone listening, working from home is harder work, and many times it's much longer hours, and it's much different. But we had to do this for our kids. So let me say this, we have two basic ways we are doing distance education, and that's through Google Classroom and through Microsoft Teams. Those are our platforms that we use, and Google Classrooms is where teachers, it's a repository for all of the information that the students need to go and access. So that's a really good thing. Being that it's Teacher Appreciation Week, let me say congratulations and thank you to all of our teachers, and I just want to open it up to all of our employees. Our employees have been magnificent during this time, and so congratulations and thank you for what you do. It's been very difficult, but it's been very rewarding as well. So we are in the process of going full digital education right in the beginning after March. March 13th, we did packets. Every school handed out packets. We handed out thousands of packets. It took about 3 days before we were able to gear up our meal program. And it's quite incredible, but we're serving 400,000 to 500,000 meals every 2 weeks. That is quite incredible. And we've served millions of meals in a lot of different ways. We are partnering with 3 different groups in the meal service, for example, to provide shelf-stable meals through cans and also fresh milk, fresh frozen meals that are cooked by 70 restaurants here in Baton Rouge. One of the things that we were able to do is partner with Citigroup Hospitality that is using the 70 restaurants here in Baton Rouge to help prepare right now frozen food, fresh hot meals that are then quick frozen, and those are handed out. And of course, the 3 o'clock project has helped us as well. I think the thing that we are looking at and are most concerned about is equity around the parish. We want to make sure that every child has that connectivity, whether it's a hotspot or through some way that we can get them Wi-Fi. And I think we're doing a really good job of that. And I think before I stop talking here, I want to mention that our seniors, I mean, none of us went through a senior year like our seniors are going through. And it's, the several thousands of seniors that we have, we owe it to them to give them the best opportunity. So we are dedicated to an in-person graduation ceremony at some point. We can't give them a date because we're going to follow the NOSEP and the governor's orders and do what we have to do. But at some point this summer, we plan to have a ceremony for those seniors. More than likely, we'll be outside. May look a lot different than normal. It could be much fewer tickets for the families, and that social distancing we've all become accustomed to. But we want to have that service for them, that ceremony for them, to give them a good going away. And I can promise you, they will never forget their senior year in high school. So we're working a lot through the digital education, distance learning, and of course, our meal service has been very, very popular throughout the parish.
Thank you, Superintendent. You're absolutely right. The graduating class of 2020 will never forget this. I think we'll have a lot of books that will emerge from these seniors as they go down their adult journey, or even in their college journey as well. And I want to say that I'm glad that we have been able to collaborate with you all and provide face coverings or masks for all of the employees that are working with the school system and handing out food. So it speaks to the fact, that all of us recognize, and I know all of the leaders here, that one of the things this crisis has done has caused, as I heard someone use the term, cross collaboration. So we've collaborated, we've worked together in all our different spheres of influence to move our city forward in every aspect, and now specifically as we talk about education. So thank you, Superintendent. I'm gonna come back to you. I want to get some of our other panelists on board now. Mr. Tom Galligan with LSU, our interim president of LSU. Mr. Galligan, tell me, what platforms are you using to deliver instruction and resources to your students?
Yeah, thank you. And before I start, I'll join the others, Mayor, President, in thanking you for putting this panel together. And it's great to be together with my colleagues, and I'll thank them for participating as well. Earlier this year, you and I were together at the parade and then in the PMAC to celebrate the LSU football team's national championship, which was a great day, and this is a little bit different. But at LSU, we like to say that even though we're physically distant, we're still socially connected. And so thank you today for socially connecting us. And we've used a variety of different platforms. Moodle is our course management system, our course learning management system. So we've used Moodle. We've got state-of-the-art course development and housing software. And we've basically taken 30,000 students in over 5,000 classes and gone totally online. So the effort has been Herculean, and I thank my faculty and staff for that. And that's just Baton Rouge at the flagship. We've got 7 other campuses as well, and they've done similar things. So we're using Zoom a lot. I know we're on WebEx today, and it works great. We, as of April 2nd, had spent over 1.35 million minutes together in Zoom. And that was about 2 weeks worth of working remotely, 2.5. So now, early in May, I mean, we must be close to 3 million minutes in Zoom. We're using also something called EAB Navigate, which is an app for students to make appointments, to manage their coursework and the like. Our health science center is, our health center is using Zoom and other vehicles for telemedicine. Our UREC is using Zoom and other methods to lead classes. So you can still work out, not physically in the UREC, but with UREC people. So those are some of the tools that we're using. And I will say, we had a town hall the other day with faculty and staff with 1,400 people who participated. And that was a Teams. We used Microsoft Teams for that one. Which, you know, is a phenomenal number. Earlier, we used Zoom, and we had 900 people participate. So, and the other day, I was in a Zoom conference with 1,500 admitted students from all over the world. So those are some of the things that we're using. That they are functioning very, very well for us. So we're living in the new normal. We can't wait to get back together physically, but safety's been our guidepost throughout, and it will continue to be the determining factor for everything that we do.
Mr. Galligan, before I go to Dr. Smith, I heard you say that you all had a meeting, online meeting with 1,400 faculty and staff. And so in light of what took place there, how might the pandemic shape faculty training and development in the future?
You know, I got out of the shower the other morning and it hit me that the debate about online education, to the extent it continued in America, is over. We have proven that we can do it. Now there are huge benefits to an in-person classroom experience, but I think we're going to see a lot more use of technology going forward. We're going to see a lot more flipping of the classroom. And Mayor President, we had never had that many people at the flagship campus together in a room for a meeting. So what technology allowed us to do was basically have what at Little Colby Sawyer College, where I was president for 10 years, we used to have all campus meetings. And those aren't feasible where you have 5,000 employees. But because of the technology, we were able to have that all campus meeting. So I think in that regard, the technology holds promise to actually in some ways bring us even closer together than the physical world to which we are accustomed.
Thank you. Dr. Smith, over at BRCC, what kind of platforms are you using to deliver instruction and resources to your students?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Let me also say thank you for your leadership on this webinar to talk about keeping the promise. Certainly appreciate your support of BRCC, and to all my colleagues out there in higher education. Appreciate seeing you guys and hope you guys are staying safe. As pertaining to BRCC, we are primarily using Canvas as our course learning management tool, Zoom, Respondents, and Proctorio. Those are proactively communicating detailed instruction to our students and expectations. I would say though, BRCC also has an academic learning center that we are providing access to our students through our library, where we provide 100 online databases to include thousands of electronic journals, magazines, newspapers, and 70,000 ebooks. We know that this transformation of this pandemic has caused us to act differently and support students differently. And I want to shed a little moment on the question that you asked Mr. Gallagher earlier about how this is going to shape faculty development. Let me first say, I want to say thank you to my faculty and staff who have basically worked their tails off trying to get students prepared and try to finish students up for the spring semester. In addition to that, I would like to thank our students. We have a BRCC app, and it was interesting to see the words of encouragement that our students was offering each other during this pandemic crisis. So I'm excited to lead this institution, certainly excited about the work that our faculty and staff doing. As pertains to how it will shape our faculty training and development in the future, could you imagine being a faculty member where you have lecture-based class that you have put countless hours in developing your notes and detailed messages that you want to say to the student? Now we got to prepare you now for a new digital age of technology using your lesson plan. And so that means many of our faculty will have to be retrained on how to use technology. Many of our faculty will have to be sensitive to meeting student learning needs or learning styles that student learns in different varieties, some through visual, some through lecture, but some through webinars and chat. I know we're in the digital age of the text and so forth, so our faculty are going to have to be engaged now on a whole lot of learning environment for themselves to be able to support students in the future. I would imagine the development or professional development will be changed. Probably won't be any more conference or travel for the short-term future, but now faculty are going to be engaged just like students online in a digital atmosphere to be able to prepare their students for the future.
Thank you. This is a question for all of our panelists as we think about moving forward. What discussions are taking place concerning the summer and next school year? I know these are inquiring minds want to know. And how will it affect your students? How are you preparing for a safe re-entry to campus? What discussions are taking place concerning the summer and next school year? And how are you preparing for a safe re-entry to campus? We'll start with you, Dr. Smith, since you're already up there, and then we'll move backwards.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am, for that question. Well, we know we got some challenges ahead of us because of the social distancing. Certainly with the stay-at-home order going to be relaxed very soon. So our summer and fall course offer primarily online or synchronous. And what synchronous basically means that it's a combination of online, working remotely, or chats, or webinar, but even in the hybrid situation where we could do some limited hands-on face-to-face training. And so that's what's going to consist of our summer offering for now, but some of our fall offerings are going to continue to evolve based on what the social distance practice or policy is going to be in the future. So we are a comprehensive college where we also provide not just general education, but hands-on training. So that's going to be part of the delay for a time being. We're not sure, but certainly it's going to require us to act differently and to train differently, maybe attending the classroom and a welding program, a millwright program with one instructor, making sure we have accessible equipment and those sort of things. As it pertains to safety, which is crucial to all of us to make sure we protect our faculty, staff, and our students. So we do a daily engagement, sanitation and sanitizing all our facilities, daily engagement, making sure our restroom and all our laboratories are basically sanitized every hour on the day. Also providing PPE equipment to all of our staff and even our students to make sure that they are safe. And so these kind of practices are going to continue to evolve as our college to maintain safety. And I would tell you that we are strictly enforcing the social distancing of 10 people and certainly 6 feet apart. It has been a challenge being a comprehensive institution, but I remain committed to making sure we provide safety to all of our faculty and staff and our students.
President Galligan?
Thank you.
Question.
Yeah, we will be online during the summer, and we're also providing a 15% exemption on tuition and fees for students in the summer. We want to make sure that our students' academic progress is not impeded. So if somebody had to drop a class or a class doesn't work out this semester, we want to make education in the summer accessible. But that'll be online. And as we go online in the summer, we'll also be bringing our faculty and staff back on campus in a phased approach with safety as our guide. In the fall, we are fully intending to be open and on campus in the fall. Our guide will be safety. So will it be exactly like it usually is? Probably not. We're talking about larger classes perhaps continuing online. We're talking about smaller classes that will be in bigger rooms. We're talking about having maybe some capacity restrictions in some of our bigger buildings. The Union, for instance, the UREC. So we will look at all those things. We're also discussing daily the availability of testing. So will we be able to test our faculty and staff and students, and both for antibodies and for virology. And if we get a positive test, we've already identified the isolation spaces that we will use. So those are our plans. But again, safety will be the guide. We're not going to put anybody at risk, but however we're open, we will be open, because we are not going to get in the way of our students' academic progress.
President Belton, what about Southern University?
Sure, Madam Mayor. I guess my comments would somewhat echo those of my colleagues. It goes back to what you originally said about the degree to which that we've benefited from a lot of collaboration, and it is true that we have, I think, spoke more recently than ever in the history. We really learn from one another. We are guided by Kim Hunter-Reid, who is doing an outstanding job as the commissioner, and we actually bounce things off one another, and learn different strategies, and so like Tom and Willie was making mention, Southern has already made the announcement that we're going to facilitate summer school entirely online. We have, in fact, last week, our board adopted a policy where we actually reduced fees for the summer school, where it would only be tuition and no other fees, with the exception of that in light of the platform to which we're going to be relying on. We look forward to inviting students back to the campus in the fall. During the summer, we are providing to our faculty continual opportunities to develop themselves professionally, get certified in the facilitation of instruction online. But the fall will look different. You know, we're actually developing plans now in reaction to our value of continuing social distancing, whether it be in the classroom, whether it be in the residential halls, ensuring that the university community have access to PPE, even considering renovation projects where we could possibly install plexiglass to maybe even limit engagement with the public. And so, but we do value and looking forward to the interaction that we would anticipate upon students coming back on campus. And so there will be a continual mix of face-to-face interaction, as Tom said, albeit valuing social distancing at the same time, but also I think particularly in the fall, additional reliance on the delivery of instruction online, in keeping with our restrictions in terms of limiting engagement over that time.
President Belton and to all of the our panelists, I want to, and I'm going to come back to you, Superintendent Drake, with that question a little later. You know, I have been using this term, well, you've heard this term, we're about to enter a new normal. I am capturing what I heard someone else describe it as a new reality, because actually we won't be doing things normally. I understand the, you know, new normal, but it is a new reality that we will be embracing as a nation, as a state, as a city. And so when it comes to education, what do you think is the new reality that COVID-19 has reshaped with the culture of education? How do you think COVID-19 is reshaping the culture of education? President Belton?
Yeah, I think Tom alluded to it. You know, for many years now, students have given indication of their interest to engage with us online. And there has always been a debate within the higher education community about, you know, the quality of online instruction and the degree to which, you know, face-to-face engagement provides for students a more substantive experience. There have been faculty members who just rejected the notion of facilitating instruction online. Of course, students, because of Warren, you know, they're accustomed to it. We just weren't. And so I think with the advent of COVID-19, people are taking another look at this modality and embracing it. And I think it ultimately provides students with, you know, more options, you know, in terms of things that we will provide students with more options in terms to which they could respond to in terms of the delivery of their educational experience. We are being forced, even if we chose not to design, to really look at our technological infrastructure. And I think and I think even statewide and nationally, we need to ensure that we have a backbone in terms of broadwidth such that students, even away from our campuses, will have appropriate access points to engage with us. And so I think that in terms of ensuring that we have rich offerings facilitated online, I think that is the new reality for higher education, where there had been resistance in the past. I think people are getting a greater sense about its value, and I think we will rightfully react with enthusiasm going forward.
I'm going to go back to you, Superintendent Drake. How is our East Baton Rouge Parish school system preparing for the next school year, a safe re-entry to campus? And then we'll talk about the shift in this new reality of COVID-19 and its impact on the culture of education. Superintendent Drake, what's going on with EBR for the plans for the next school year?
Well, first, let me say that I believe that we are in a very unique place in American history right now. I think history will show that this moment in our time has given us an opportunity to change the way we do business. And I think that we're going to see more things coming out of this opportunity to do things differently. So right now, school will end officially in a few weeks. We have already converted to the summer program for feeding and for distance learning. So right now, our students, when they finish up this semester, they will go into several opportunities during the summer. One of them is credit recovery. High school students need credit recovery. Some may just need to pass a course to pass a grade. And so we will have that summer remediation for those students. But there's also going to be a very robust opportunity for our students to learn additional information through distance learning. So that is very unique and different. When we come back to school, we don't know exactly what school will look like. I don't think it will look the same as it looked last year or in years before. I think it will look totally different. We may be in shifts when we go back to school. We may have fewer students in the classroom. We may eat our meals in the classroom. We may have some students staying at home one day and coming the next day. We don't know how that's going to look. Certainly face-to-face learning with teachers is unbelievable. And I think right now, parents are probably getting a new respect for teachers because after the panic set in, then the reality set in that they really do have to homeschool them and help those students at home. So I think moving into the fall is going to be a totally new opportunity. We've all heard the saying, necessity is the mother of invention. And I think there's going to be a lot of new created opportunities out of this. We have buses that are delivering devices right now. Brookstown Middle has used their buses to deliver devices, computers over the summer. Our board meetings are now virtual. As a matter of fact, as we speak this very moment, our board is virtually interviewing the 5 superintendent candidates who will come on next year this next year at some point. So we're in a different world right now than we have been before. I consider our schools to be pristine when we come back. They should be absolutely pristine inside and out. We've been very careful. And of course, like you said, you provided us a number of face masks through the city and mayor's office. Other people have done this all over the parish to help us. And we have been blessed with the opportunity we've been presented. And so we're going to be ready for it. Of course, safety is always our #1 priority. So as my colleagues mentioned, we're going to make sure that we practice safe distancing, use PPEs, and do what we have to do. But I think our staff has been so creative and our teachers have been so creative. We will have a viable, robust distance learning program come the fall that's in addition to just regular education in the brick and mortar building. So we're excited about the future. Our health centers and schools is continuing to work, and a lot of people are still working just as they did before we were out. So we've been blessed to help our students and our families continue as much as normal as they can.
Well, before we get into questions from those listening and viewing, I'm going to take personal privilege and have a little commercial break that is quite appropriate now, in that I am hosting an essay contest for the graduating class of 2020. And the essay topic is, what should high school education look like in a COVID-19 culture? And so we're giving young people an opportunity to develop their own views around a central idea facing our community today. If you would like to be a part of this essay contest, you can go to COVID-19 essay at brla.gov. That's COVID-19 essay at brla.gov. The essays have to be submitted by May 13th. We need graduating seniors who are members of the class of 2020 can apply. You have to be under the age of 19 as of June 1st, a resident of East Baton Rouge Parish, and attending a high school within the parish at the time of the entry. And our first place prize winner will receive $2,000. Second place, $1,000. Third place, $500, and 2 special recognitions at $250. So go to brla.gov/COVID-19 essay. For the students that are listening and for the parents that are listening, I just think this is a good way for some of our graduating seniors to spend a little time writing an essay with the potential of getting a little money in their pocket. What you think about that, Superintendent?
I think it's a great idea. I hope our students, and I think they will, we'll get it out on the website, let them know what's going on, send us some information, we'll help promote it.
Absolutely. Now let's take some questions that have been submitted by our audience. What changes, if any, have been made to university admissions requirements due to the pandemic that graduating high school seniors should know about? I'm going to repeat the question. What changes, if any, have been made to university admissions requirements due to the pandemic that graduating high school seniors should know about? President Gallagher, you want to start with that?
I will start with that. For us, there are no major changes to the admissions process or requirements. And of course, I think everybody knows at LSU we do look at grade point, we do look at the ACT scores, but we also look at the whole person, and we look at what else they've accomplished and have they overcome adversity and what other special skills do they have. So for us, things are pretty much normal. I would say there are many other higher education systems in the country, though, that have changed. University of the California schools are now test optional. Many other schools are test optional. So I would encourage anybody who's still in the process of applying to college to check with the schools to which they are applying to see if there's been any alteration of their basic admissions criteria. I do think one thing for all of us in higher ed who rely on any kind of test score at all is we'll see that those test scores will come in probably over the course of the summer more than they might have before, assuming that the testing agencies can give the standardized tests.
Dr. Belton, what about at Southern University?
Yeah, there has not been a major change. As Tom made reference, I think because there has been the delay in administering the ACT has affected many high school seniors, those who have not taken the test. And so the Board of Regents actually adopted a policy that enables institutions to admit those students based on an institutional assessment tool as opposed to an ACT score in and of itself. And so if you have not recorded an ACT score or SAT score, you can come to Southern. We will administer an institutional assessment tool that aligns with the benchmarks of the ACT, SAT, and then provisionally admit you based on that placement score. Now, that policy does not affect students who, I can appreciate it, who are seeking a TOPS scholarship. And so they would have to wait a little bit later, until that test is actually administered in June and in July, is my understanding. But for those who want to enroll now, they can do so without the benefit of having a ACT score, whereas we would administer an institutional assessment to determine placement.
Thank you. Dr. Smith, how will your university utilize funds received from the CARES Act to assist students during this pandemic?
Thank you, Mayor. So we, like all other colleges, are receiving resources from the United States Department of Education through the CARES Act. So currently our funding is going to be sent out for aid to support students for their educational needs, housing needs, meals, transportation. So it's a flexibility on the amount of money that we can give to the student, but they can use it beyond their educational needs. Also, a portion of that goes back to the institution to cover expenses. And so we're going to make sure that we continue to get those funds out there. In the next few days, many students will be seeing who are set up with us will be seeing money directly deposited into their account in the next few days. And so those students will be able to utilize those funds in a variety of means, not just for educational purposes.
President Belton and President Galligan, is this the same for your institutions, or is there something different taking place with the utilization of funds received from the CARES Act?
Well, at Southern, all of our institutions within the Southern system have developed implementation plans that would enable them to provide for students grants through the CARES Act. For Southern, I would say within the next 10 days, all of our campuses will be implementing those plans. In other words, dispersing those dollars. We've been very deliberate in trying to first trying to touch as many students as possible, both undergraduate and graduate students, and first recognizing those students with the greatest financial need, and then making disbursements to all other students based on a flat rate. And so the Shreveport campus, I think they're going to provide those grants over the spring, summer, and fall. But here on Baton Rouge campus, we're dispersing the entirety of those grants for students who were enrolled in spring 2020. And those should be going out probably within the next 7 days.
President Gallagher.
Thanks, Mayor. At LSU, substantially similar. We're finalizing our distributions as we speak. We received in total $18 million for the flagship campus. The way the CARES Act works, half of that it has to be distributed directly to students, which is they put students first, and that's what we do too. So half of that will be distributed to students. We'll distribute 75% now, and we'll hold 25% for students in need in the summer and the fall. And ours will be based primarily on the financial need of the student. The allocations from Congress were based on the number of Pell eligible students and FTEs. So we thought the spirit of that was to go first to those with the greatest need. So that's what we'll be doing. The other campuses that have students in the LSU family will be doing substantially the same thing. The other half of the 18 million we received, we have and we will use to reimburse for the costs that we've incurred as a result of COVID, which are pretty significant.
President Gallagher, I think you touched on this. This is another question from the audience. And I think all of you all have touched on this at the beginning, but I'm going to ask it. What steps are your institutions taking to protect faculty as we transition back into the classroom? President Gallagher, you want to?
I'm happy to start. I am happy to start. I just didn't want to step on anybody's toes. We will physically distance. We will strongly encourage people to have masks. We'll have hand sanitizer everywhere. And if we have faculty who are at risk, I would expect that, in fact, I know, we'll provide opportunities for those faculty to teach online. And again, as we come back to work, it's going to be gradual. And anybody who's not comfortable coming back, anybody who has family care responsibilities that prevent them from coming back, we're going to be very sensitive to those needs. We've proven that we can work online way better than we ever thought we could, work remotely. So we'll keep doing that as we get back to full speed.
Is that the same for everyone else, or you all have some additional steps that you're taking that you want to comment on?
It's primarily the same thing. We're going to be very flexible and listen to faculty in terms of their level of comfort. Of course, we're going to ensure that we have the requisite PPE for faculty and staff to engage with students and throughout the university community. But pretty much the same way, really looking at our academic schedule such that we could facilitate classes in multiple manners, such that faculty could teach both online and in face and or a modality that they're most comfortable with. So pretty much what Tom made mention.
Dr. Smith, I have a question directed to you. It says, how are community colleges positioned to help with the downturn in the economy? How are community colleges positioned to help with the downturn in the economy?
A great question. Thank you, Mayor. So we all have seen in Louisiana 350,000 of our fellow citizens filed for unemployment benefits in the past 6 weeks. We see what's going on across the country where 30 million unemployment claims have been made. And so our community colleges, by having a comprehensive mission, position ourselves to be able to support our citizens, but certainly those in the workforce with short-term training opportunities through accessibility. And so you talked about the new normal, new reality. Part of the things we talked about curriculum and things early on, is developing programs and curricula that are short in nature, that don't require folks to be in our classroom, but certainly taking months and years to complete. And so we're focusing as a community college by having short-term training programs, customized training programs that we can customize and offer credentials to our students and prepare them for the workforce. And so we're excited that we're able to offer and spin those things around. Also, we imagine that the downsizing of institutions and certain our employers, with many of them shutting their doors, there's availability on resources and scholarships through our foundation that we made available to support folks, not just for the emergency, but certainly scholarships to take part of the training initiative that we're going to develop. And so we're positioned there to be able to support a whole variety of folks who are out there, who are unemployed, who want to be reskilled and don't have the resources or the wherewithal. And so we're positioning ourselves to really jump on that. Additionally, I'd like to also speak to that we haven't. You know, it concerns me, and Superintendent Drake discussed it, about our seniors. But our seniors also and our graduates of our colleges and universities, what we're going to do for them, right? How we position them and support them in the downturn of the economy. And so we're exploring having a virtual commencement very, very soon to make sure that we recognize our seniors need to get their degree where they can go to work and have some skill to take care of themselves and their family. And so those are some of the things that community colleges can be much, can take advantage of opportunity to support our citizens and those out there.
And the second question for you, which is connected, I believe, to what you just shared, is what is BRCC doing as it relates to workforce development to support business and industry?
So we're still working with our business industry partner. Just this morning, I was on the phone with BRAC, our Baton Rouge area chamber, to talk about how we can support our business and industry partners, what kind of things we can do research on and look for them for the future as pertaining to job training. I would tell you earlier on, we were part of the Baton Rouge area chamber and arts council on designing PPE, masks for our healthcare workers. We have been restoring our hands-on industrial training with LED and Exxon Mobil to an extent we'll be working with them. We have virtually restarted our North Baton Rouge initiative, and Mayor certainly appreciated your support on that initiative. And those programs include welding, pipe fitting, electrical, and millwright. We have virtual restarts of our allied health and training program to include certified medical assistant, pharmacist tech, phlebotomy, medical billing and coding. And so all those things that we have started to do to support our business and industry, I would tell you, because of the social distance practice, it's going to be a small challenge, but some we recognize that we still need to maintain safety for those students who come in and train with us. And so those are some of the things that we are doing, as well as staying abreast of new technology and advancement in technology, where we can prepare the workforce.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. Superintendent Drake, the next two questions are for you. What is the plan for improving low-performing DNF schools and remediation for those students?
Well, let me go back and talk about the CARES Act a little bit. The $18 million we are receiving from the CARES Act is funneled through our title program, which means it's for our students who are in the most need. So we're going to use that money to focus on being equitable and making sure those kids in those schools have what they need through enhanced summer programming, through infrastructure that they need. Many of those students are the ones who haven't had the connectivity. So the technology infrastructure, the connectivity for our students. Also, those students are the ones, and that money will be focused in those areas first before it's focused anywhere else. We have to get our schools better. Our students are working as hard as they can. Our parents are doing the best they can. But there's no doubt about it. We have to grow every year. We have grown academically 4 out of the last 5 years. The only year we did not grow was the year of the flood, and not many districts grew that year. But I'm happy to say in the last 2 years, we have grown. We were the 7th fastest growing district in the state of Louisiana last year, and the 6th fastest growing district in the state the year before that. So we're moving in the right direction, and it starts with those low performing schools.
The next question for you, Superintendent Drake, is how are our children, the graduating seniors, able to obtain the required documentation to complete their registration for college?
Well, that's being worked on with the senior team. We have a group of a team that's working with seniors through the principals. They can contact their school directly. They can contact their executive director. The executive directors are working very diligently on this. We're very focused, and that is pretty much our #1 priority right now, because their schooling basically ends this week. This is their last week of school. And so we are focused on getting making sure that they have what they need. So if you don't have what you need right now, if you're a parent out there, contact your school. You can contact the hotline through our website, ebrschools.org, or you can contact one of the executive directors or even the teacher. The teachers are working directly with them as well. So we have a group of staff that are working with these seniors to make sure they have not left anything behind. I will say this also, since March 13th, we missed an entire 9 weeks of school. So that 9 weeks right now, those students can go online and help their grades get better if they need to pass a class. But I think probably the most important thing is staying in touch with their teacher and their administrative staff in the schools.
Thank you. The next question is for our higher education leaders. How has COVID-19 impacted your enrollment or scholarships for the fall semester? President Belton, you want to start with that?
So I was telling the staff today that the greatest challenge we have is one of uncertainty, particularly as it relates to our enrollment. We are at present monitoring trends, and quite frankly, the summer enrollment is going to be higher than what it was last year this time. We nonetheless are taking a much closer look at fall enrollment trends, particularly as relates to, for us anyway, out-of-state applications. For many, there is a belief that Louisiana is a hot spot, and even South Louisiana is. And so people are awaiting evidence that if they send their children to us, that it's going to be in a safe environment. We believe that, we have some responsibility in demonstrating and ensuring families that we are making the right decisions and providing the kind of infrastructure to provide for them that security that indeed their child will be safe. So outside of out-of-state, our enrollment we anticipate it to be flat. And I think the degree to which we can communicate a little bit better in terms of what we're doing may enable us to enjoy the same type of enrollment that we had last year.
President Galligan, how has COVID-19 impacted your enrollment or scholarships for the fall semester?
Right now, we seem to be in pretty good shape, and I would say that because our enrollment team is fantastic. They've done a fabulous job of recruiting. I think I told you earlier, I was on a meeting with 1,500 admitted students from all around the world. And there's only one Louisiana, and it's a wonderful place to go to school. But like Ray, and I think everybody else, safety first, and we're going to promise our students and their families that we're not going to put them at undue risk. We already give, I think, very generous scholarships, and certainly we'll monitor that over the summer for the students who have been admitted and deposited. If their situations change, we'll certainly respond to that.
Dr. Smith, your enrollment in the fall, do you think you'd be impacted by COVID-19?
Yes, I'm sure we will. I echo some of the sentiments of my colleagues on this webinar, but certainly I think the major thing that would concern me is persistence. I imagine both our students and faculty will struggle to adapt to the new online coursework that they're going to be engaged in. So I imagine our enrollment will probably tinker somewhere in the fall. But I'm encouraged by our summer enrollment. Our summer enrollment, we haven't even started yet, is up over 10%. So that's exciting to see that our summer enrollment up or what have you. Also, Mayor, would think that all of us, and certainly me, are very concerned about low-income students and poor students not being able to enroll, because I imagine many of their parents or even themselves probably have been laid off and got to work, probably can't afford to go to our institution. So now they're going to need even more resource support from all of us. Certainly our foundation has stepped up to provide scholarship, but I see that being a tremendous impact to our college, how we support our poor students, our low-income students, and certainly students of color, to make sure we can continue to support them on meeting their goals to complete and graduate. And so we hopefully that we can do more enticing things. We created a virtual student center, as I talked about earlier, to say that they can still enroll, answer all their financial aid questions with counseling and tutoring advisement and so forth. But certainly we remain vigilant on making sure we get those students enrolled in our institution.
And for the older kids, they aren't able to research because so many sites are blocked. Are the blocked sites individualized based upon the needs of the grade levels? Superintendent Drake.
Mayor, I could only hear a part of that question. Could you repeat that, please?
Absolutely, I apologize. It says that computers have been provided by the schools and they appreciate it, but those computers don't always work smoothly. The concerns that I hear are primarily based on the difficulties of spotty internet service causing frustration, and for the older kids, they aren't able to research because so many sites are blocked. Are the blocked sites individualized based upon the needs of the grade levels? Superintendent, you may be on mute. Are you on mute, Superintendent? Okay.
Yeah, I think I'm good now. So the short answer to that is yes. When we started this distance learning program in March, we started it on Zoom, and it was there were some issues there that we had to make sure kids, especially young kids, did not have access to. So we do have some filters in there, and I think they're very important, especially for younger children. Let me mention this as well. We are a one-to-one school district, which means every child grades 3 through 12 has a computer. Now, through the Title program, we are purchasing computers for pre-K through second grade. Every child in this district will have a computer. And so based on where you are, what you're studying, what you're doing, there will be certain safeguards in place to make sure kids are protected.
Superintendent, you may have to write that answer down for us because we had a little breakup in your connection as you were speaking, but I think we got bits and pieces of it. We did hear at the beginning your response saying yes, but we may ask you to jot that down for us and we can communicate it later on.
I will, thank you.
For President Galligan, what are the plans for housing at LSU next fall?
Again, we're studying all those issues right now, and the plans are, again, safety will come first, and we're considering all our options. So if it's not safe to have roommates, then what does that do with our capacity? If it is, then we will have roommates. So all of those things are on the table, Mayor.
Thank you, President Galligan. I think our technology here is either tired or something's going on because we have a lot of breakup, but I did hear most of what you said there. I think you said that, are there going to be roommates? Did you say that or no?
What I said was there'll be roommates if that's a safe situation.
Okay.
If the CDC and the governor's guidelines say that roommates are a safe situation as long as the space is adequate, and then we will have roommates. If that's not a safe situation, then and we have to isolate, then we'll do that. Obviously, if we have to do that, that affects our total capacity for housing.
Yeah, so it's a fluid situation. In other words, you're still working it. Okay.
It is a totally fluid situation.
Okay. Thank you. We have two more questions, or maybe one more question. And Superintendent, it's for you. The last question is, has East Baton Rouge Parish considered a crisis intervention program for teachers and students? Then the second part of the question is, how will we ensure that we are teaching young people how to cope with and navigate life in ways that also support their academic engagement and growth? I'll repeat the second question again, but the first part is, has East Baton Rouge Parish school system considered a crisis intervention program for teachers and students?
Well, the answer is yes to that. We have a committee working on that particular question. One of the things we want to make sure that we do is have safety as our #1 priority. I heard a colleague speaking about that. So as we move back into a situation after the governor lifts the order for stay at home, then we will probably do that in phases. We will ask our leaders in departments to come back first and do that in a way where each one feels safe. We won't force anyone to do that. So the safety part is really critical for us. I think that's really an important thing. I want to also mention that we have different groups of people on this committee that are working on this. So we have department heads, we have parents, we have principals, we have different people like that. We want to make sure everyone is involved in this process. We are definitely in a crisis. There is no doubt about it. And when you're in a crisis, you have to make decisions sometimes that not everybody will agree with. Sometimes when you make decisions, you will have people wonder why that decision was made. But we always make those decisions #1 on safety. You know, parents, if you look at the research, parents pick schools because they're safe. Not academically #1, it's safety that's always #1 because they want to know their child is safe. And we're going to make sure that our children are safe when they return to school. And school may look much, much different when we come back. I want to also take this moment to say thank you to our parents. Our parents, and just for their participation and involvement. They've done so. I want to thank all of our parents, and I want to say also, as most of you know, this is my second to last month as superintendent, and it has been a true honor and just a great honor to serve this community as superintendent of schools. So I want to thank everyone for that.
Thank you, Dre. I have two things to say. One is you got a lot of work to do before you leave.
Yes, I do.
And the second one is, I believe that your original response to the crisis intervention program, you've established a committee. So I assume that part of the crisis intervention program will be helping to teach our young people how to cope with and navigate life that will also support their academic engagement and growth.
I'm so glad you mentioned that again, because I think what this pandemic has done to us is probably the mental health part of it is probably one of the most important byproducts of this. the isolation. We're not built for isolation, and just the isolation itself is very, very difficult. Difficult on me, it's difficult on everybody. Our board had a virtual just get together one night a few weeks ago, just so we could see each other's faces and visit. So the mental part of this is truly the hardest part. And so we've been working with our counselors. We give a lot of autonomy to our principals, and they are working with small groups to make sure that our children are doing okay mentally as well as physically. We're teaching PE virtually, and just all aspects of education. Education is not just the X's and O's in that classroom. It's taking care of our children. It's giving them a hug. It's doing what we want, what we need to do for them. And it's truly been an honor to work with our children and our families on this. Thank you, Mayor.
Well, thank you. To the close of our webinar. Would any of our panelists like to have some closing comments before we close out?
This is Willie Smith. I'd like to say thank you again to you and your team for allowing us to be part of this, keeping the promise. I also would like to share with my colleagues and even you, this time it gave me a chance to spend time with my family a little bit more so than I probably wanted to, right? But also in a little bit to read a little bit more. So I just pulled off the shelf, Tom Brokaw, The Greatest Generation. I imagine this is the time where we can read that book and talk about this pandemic probably will put us on making sure we'll be a new or even greater generation going forward, because we have worked together collaboratively. Your leadership and the rest of our local and state leadership have been instrumental to us in supporting all our citizens. And so I say thank you for allowing me to be here. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and I'll jump in and Mayor say thank you. Thank you so much for coordinating this panel discussion, and thank you for your leadership, and thank you for the capital area promise. And I'd also like to say thank you, as we've all done, to our faculty, our staff, and our students for the wonderful, and families for the wonderful work that they've done. And I would close by saying sometimes education and higher education comes under a little heat in the press for this, that, or the other thing. And I would say, boy, look at what we've managed to accomplish. And I think that after this, the people's attitude towards education, towards research, and towards our ability to turn on a dime and implement it is going to be really through the roof. And I thank all my colleagues for that too. So thank you very much.
Well, Madam Mayor, President, I too would like to just join my colleagues and again commend you for facilitating this town hall meeting. We have jokingly given indication of the degree to which, you know, we probably talk more than we've ever have talked. And I say that within our system and across systems. And I think we have benefited from that. You know, during this time, you know, I value ideas and I have, I've heard many, but one of the things that has distressed me more so in recent weeks has been the suggestion that many students are contemplating waiting out a year or or deferring their aspirations in light of their quest to go to college and get a full realm of the college experience. And as Willie may mention, many families are truly in a crisis financially where they just don't see where the resources are there for them to continue their educational aspirations. My fear, however, is that, you know, deferred aspirations, life has a way of filling in those gaps when you don't take advantage of it at that time. And so I really wanted to, you know, encourage students, you know, to continue to advance their aspirations to the point of continuing their education at post-secondary level. We benefit from a lot of talent and really institution who is committed to ensuring that our students will be in a safe environment, one that's engaging nonetheless, and whose goal is to ensure their success. And so I again just wanted to express our collective commitment and say to my colleagues how much it is a pleasure for me to be a part of a higher education and education community that puts students first. Thank you, Madam President.
Mayor, I want to say thank you also for hosting this event. This has been a good dialogue. And I want to say we all know that the Capital Area Promise is for our children. So from East Baton Rouge Parish's perspective, I want to say that our children every year, sixth graders, go to LSU. Every sixth grader in our system visits LSU. Every seventh grader in our system visits Southern University. Every eighth grader in our system visits Baton Rouge Community College. So I want to thank the colleagues here, the presidents of these fine universities, who support our students. And we have shown a significant growth in seniors attending these universities over the last 4 years since this promise has been going on. So I want to thank you for hosting this. I want to thank my colleagues as well.
Well, I want to thank all of you. I will say a special thank you to the work that's being done by the Capital Area Promise core team and all of your collaborative efforts for the city of Baton Rouge. You see our partners there, and Superintendent Drake, you certainly spelled out and let everyone know and summarized what the Capital Area Promise is all about. I want to first say, Superintendent Drake, thank you certainly for your service to our students here in East Baton Rouge Parish. You will be missed, but remember what I said, you've got some work to do before you left, so you're not out yet. And certainly to President Belton at Southern University, President Galligan at LSU, and President Chancellor at Dr. Smith at BRCC. Thank you all as institutions of higher education for being a part of the fabric of our community. I am so proud that we have these stellar institutions of higher education as part of the fabric of our city, of our parish, of our state. So thank all of you all for your leadership. And we want to thank all of our viewers today. Thank you for taking the time to participate in today's town hall. Each of us today play an important and essential role toward the greater work to improve educational opportunity and outcomes in East Baton Rouge Parish and beyond. I want to remind you as we close, and thank you for being with us today, as we continue moving towards this new reality, and as we continue to navigate the COVID-19 crisis, let me encourage you to stay calm, stay home, and stay strong during this time. Our entire community certainly is in my prayers as we navigate this pandemic and as we move on the path of recovery. Thank you and have a great day.